The black helicopter landed at exactly 3:33 a.m. on her Cambodia estate, and when Angelina Jolie saw who stepped out, three of Hollywood's most powerful figures whose names she was legally forbidden from ever revealing, she knew her life was about to change forever. But what she didn't know was that refusing their offer would trigger a 7-year campaign of terror that would nearly cost her everything, including her children. The meeting lasted exactly 90 minutes, during which she was shown videos of other celebrities who had said yes, bank accounts with numbers that seemed impossible, and photographs of what happened to those who had said no. When she still refused, the tallest figure, whom insiders call the architect, smiled and said words that would haunt her for years. "Everyone says yes eventually, Miss Jolie. Some just need more persuasion than others." It had started 3 months earlier, July 2010. Angelina was at the peak of her power. Salt had just released. Her relationship with Brad was solid. Her humanitarian work was gaining global recognition. She seemed untouchable, which is exactly when they approach you, according to those who claim to know. The first contact wasn't sinister at all. It was an invitation to an exclusive charity gala in Northern California, a gathering of progressive minds working toward global transformation. The letterhead was impressive, the names on the board even more so. Tech billionaires, former presidents, Hollywood royalty. It seemed like another high-level networking event for the global elite, but the location should have been the first warning: Monte Rio, California, near the Russian River, walking distance from Bohemian Grove. For those who don't know, Bohemian Grove is a 2,700-acre campground that hosts a 2-week gathering every July for some of the most powerful men in the world. Officially, it's a private club where the wealthy relax. Unofficially, according to conspiracy theorists and some credible whistleblowers, it's where the real decisions about the world's future are made. But here's what nobody expected to happen next. Angelina arrived at what she thought was the charity gala to find only 12 other people present. No press, no photographers, no plus ones. The security was military-grade signal jammers, body scanners, contracts that threatened bankruptcy for anyone who spoke about what they witnessed. "Welcome to your initiation," said a woman Angelina recognized as one of Hollywood's most powerful producer, someone whose films had shaped American culture for 3 decades. "Initiation into what?" Angelina asked, though the sinking feeling in her stomach already knew. "Into the only club that really matters," the woman replied, "the one that decides who rises and who falls. The one that's been running Hollywood since before Hollywood existed." What happened over the next 3 hours was recorded, though Angelina was told the recording was for insurance, not entertainment. They showed her things that to this day she cannot legally discuss, documents suggesting that major world events had been orchestrated years in advance, bank accounts that funded both sides of political campaigns, photographs of world leaders in compromising positions that ensured their cooperation. But the most shocking part was still coming. "Your humanitarian work in Africa," the architect said, "is admirable but misguided. We have plans for Africa, economic plans, population plans, resource extraction plans. Your work is interfering with investments worth trillions." "I'm helping refugees," Angelina said. "Children who are dying. Children who are dying according to plan," another figure interjected, a tech mogul whose company secretly owned half the internet's infrastructure. "Population control isn't evil, Miss Jolie. It's necessary. The planet can sustain 500 million comfortably or 8 billion in misery, which seems more humane." The conversation that followed was even more disturbing. They laid out their vision: a world government by 2030, controlled by corporations rather than nations, engineered viruses to reduce population humanely. Wars started specifically to drive migration patterns that would destabilize traditional societies. Hollywood's role was crucial. They needed stars to normalize these ideas, to make the unthinkable seem inevitable. "You're insane," Angelina said, standing to leave. "We're realistic," the architect responded, "and you're either with us or against us. There's no neutral ground at your level of influence." That's when they made the offer that was supposed to be impossible to refuse. $100 million a year for life, complete creative control over any project she wanted. Guaranteed Oscars. They showed her a list of winners for the next decade, already decided. Protection from any scandal, any enemy, any threat. Her children guaranteed entry into any university, any career, any level of success they desired. "All you have to do," the woman producer said, "is occasionally promote certain ideas. Climate change narratives we provide. Population control disguised as female empowerment. Specific political candidates when asked. Small things, really. But wait, here's where it gets even more sinister. They showed her what they called the collection. Videos of every major celebrity in compromising positions. Drug use, sexual affairs, some things far worse. It was leverage, they explained, accumulated over decades. We don't have anything on you yet, the architect noted almost admiringly. You've been remarkably careful, but we can create something if necessary. Deepfakes are quite convincing these days. Are you threatening me? Angelina asked. We're offering you a choice, he replied. Join us voluntarily and prosper beyond imagination, or refuse and, well, let's just say life becomes very difficult for those who know what you now know but aren't part of the family. This was the moment that would define everything that came after. Angelina looked around the room at these people, some of whose movies she'd loved, whose charity work she'd admired, whose public personas seemed so benevolent. Now she saw them for what they really were, puppet masters who viewed humanity as a resource to be managed, not people to be helped. My mother raised me to fight bullies, Angelina said finally. You're just bullies with bigger bank accounts. The silence that followed was suffocating. Is that your final answer? The architect asked. It is. Then God help you, Miss Jolie, because no one else will. She was escorted out by security, driven to a private airfield, and put on a plane back to Los Angeles. The entire experience felt surreal, like a fever dream. For a few days she almost convinced herself it hadn't been real. Then the attacks began. First it was subtle. Negative stories in the tabloids, all appearing simultaneously across different publications. Anonymous sources claiming she was difficult on set, unstable, a bad mother. Her emails were hacked, selectively edited, and leaked. Her charitable foundation was suddenly under investigation for financial irregularities that didn't exist. But here's the most terrifying part that nobody knows. In September 2010, Maddox, then 9 years old, disappeared for 6 hours. He had been at a friend's house, supervised by security, but somehow vanished. Angelina received a single text. He's safe. This is just a demonstration. Imagine if we weren't so merciful. Maddox was found 6 hours later in a shopping mall. No memory of how he got there. Unharmed but with a note in his pocket. Next time we keep him. Angelina immediately increased security, hiring former Mossad agents, installing military-grade surveillance, essentially turning her home into a fortress. But they still got through. In December 2010, Zahara became violently ill. Doctors couldn't explain it. Her symptoms matched no known disease. She recovered after a week, but during her illness, Angelina received another message. Modern medicine is amazing. It can cure anything, or cause anything. Brad didn't believe her at first. The story sounded insane, paranoid, the kind of thing that got celebrities institutionalized. But then he started noticing things too. Scripts he was offered that seemed to push specific agendas. Directors who suddenly wouldn't work with him after he asked too many questions. Studio executives who mentioned mutual friends who were concerned about Angelina's stability. They're real, aren't they? Brad asked one night. These people you're talking about. They're real and they're everywhere, Angelina replied. But the worst attack was yet to come. In March 2011, Angelina's private medical records were leaked, not to the public, but to specific individuals. Her genetic test results, her preventive surgery plans, her psychiatric evaluations from years earlier. The message was clear. We know everything about you, and we can use it whenever we want. That's when she decided to fight back, but not in the way they expected. Instead of going public, which would have made her look crazy, or giving in, which would have made her complicit, Angelina did something brilliant. She started her own intelligence network. Using her humanitarian connections, she built relationships with intelligence agencies worldwide. Her UN work gave her diplomatic immunity in many countries. She gathered information on the people who had threatened her, documenting their crimes, their connections, their vulnerabilities. If anything happens to me or my children, she informed them through intermediaries. Packets of information go to journalists in 12 countries simultaneously. Your choice. It was a standoff that lasted years. During this time, strange things kept happening. In 2013, her plane nearly crashed due to mechanical failure. In 2014, a gas leak almost killed her entire family, detected only because she'd installed additional sensors. In 2015, Brad was offered a film that would have required him to be away for a year, leaving Angelina and the children vulnerable. When he refused, his career started suffering mysteriously. But here's the shocking twist nobody anticipated. In 2016, someone within the organization contacted Angelina secretly. They called themselves the Defector, claimed to be sickened by what they'd become part of. They provided Angelina with crucial information. The organization was planning something major for 2020, something that would change the world permanently. They're going to release something, the Defector warned, a crisis that will make people beg for the kind of control they want to impose. You need to prepare. Angelina tried to warn others, but who would believe her? She was already being painted as unstable, her marriage to Brad falling apart under the pressure. The custody battle that followed their divorce was, according to insiders, heavily influenced by the organization's legal connections. They couldn't break you, the defector told her, so they're isolating you, making sure that when you try to speak out, no one will listen. The years that followed were a careful ballet of survival. Angelina continued her humanitarian work, but noticed she was increasingly sidelined from major initiatives. Films she directed received minimal distribution. Her public appearances were often marred by technical difficulties or scheduling conflicts. It was a soft assassination of her influence. But she persisted, gathering more evidence, building more connections, waiting for the right moment to expose everything. Then 2020 happened, exactly as the defector had warned. A global crisis that required global solutions. Populations accepting surveillance and control they would have rejected years earlier. The Great Reset that conspiracy theorists had warned about, suddenly being discussed openly by world leaders. Everything the organization had described in that room in 2010 was becoming reality. They did it, Angelina told her closest confidants. They actually did it, but here's where the story takes an even darker turn. In 2021, Angelina was approached again. This time, they didn't send representatives. The architect himself came to her home, somehow bypassing all security, appearing in her living room like a ghost. "You've been impressive," he said. 10 years of resistance. Your children are almost grown now. Don't you want to ensure their futures? Their futures are their own to make, Angelina replied. Not in the world we're creating. There will be those who control and those who are controlled. Your silence has been appreciated, but silence isn't enough anymore. We need active participation. Or what? Or your oldest son's drug problem becomes public. Oh, you didn't know? We've been ensuring he has access to certain substances. Reversible, of course, if you cooperate. The violation of her child was the final straw. Get out of my house, Angelina said, her voice deadly calm. And know this, I've documented everything. Every threat, every attack, every crime. If anything happens to any of my children, the world learns everything. The architect smiled. Mutually assured destruction. How Cold War of you. But remember, Ms. Jolie, we survived the Cold War. We'll survive you. After he left, Angelina made a decision that would shock everyone. She began slowly, carefully, releasing information, not through traditional channels, they controlled those, but through encrypted networks, through blockchain-stored documents that couldn't be deleted, through whisper networks of other celebrities who had also refused and suffered for it. She never named names directly. The legal consequences would have been devastating. But she provided enough breadcrumbs for investigative journalists to follow. Several high-profile arrests in 2022 and 2023 for trafficking and conspiracy. Not coincidences. Certain powerful figures suddenly retiring or disappearing from public life. Her intelligence network at work. But the organization's retaliation was swift and brutal. Every tabloid suddenly ran stories about her mental health. Deep-faked videos appeared showing her in compromising situations, quickly debunked but still damaging. Her children faced constant harassment online from accounts that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The custody battle with Brad intensified, with judges mysteriously ruling against her despite evidence in her favor. She later learned that 3 of the judges were members of the same club that had first approached her. Here's what the public doesn't know about her recent years. Every trip she takes requires decoy vehicles. Every meal is tested for toxins. Her children's friends are thoroughly investigated. She hasn't slept through a full night since 2010, always waiting for the next attack. The stress has aged her visibly, which the media attributes to her difficult personality rather than the constant threat she lives under. In 2023, she received what seemed like a final ultimatum. A package arrived containing photos of all 6 of her children, taken from angles that suggested long-range surveillance. Each photo had a date on the back, dates in the future. The message was clear: we can reach them anywhere, anytime, but Angelina Jolie is nothing if not a fighter. She responded by going even more public with her humanitarian work, making herself too visible to eliminate quietly. Every appearance was live-streamed to multiple platforms. She traveled with journalists, ensuring witnesses everywhere. She turned her visibility into armor. If I die, she told a gathering of reporters in 2024, it won't be an accident, it won't be suicide, it will be murder, and you'll know who's responsible. The boldness of the statement shocked everyone, but it also provided protection. The organization thrives in shadows. Open acknowledgement of their existence is their kryptonite. But here's the most recent development that nobody knows about. In 2024, a new defector reached out. This one was younger, a tech executive who had been recruited recently and was horrified by what they learned. They provided Angelina with something unprecedented: video recordings from inside Bohemian Grove, including the ritual ceremonies that participants claimed were just theater. The videos showed world leaders, celebrities, and business moguls participating in mock human sacrifices, chanting in robes around a 40-foot stone owl. Mock being the operative word. The defector insisted no actual violence occurred, but the psychological impact of making powerful people participate in such rituals was a form of control. Once you've done this, the defector explained, you're bonded to them by mutual blackmail. Everyone has dirt on everyone. Angelina now possesses these videos but hasn't released them. It's her nuclear option, her final card to play if the organization makes a move against her children. The standoff continues to this day. She lives in a strange twilight, unable to speak freely about what she knows, unable to live normally, protecting her children while trying to maintain some semblance of a career and public life. Every interview is a minefield where she must avoid certain topics. Every film project is scrutinized for hidden agendas she might unknowingly promote. But she's also not alone anymore. Her resistance inspired others. Celebrities who had been afraid to refuse started saying no. Some faced consequences, but they supported each other, creating an underground railroad of sorts for those trying to escape the organization's influence. We're not winning, Angelina told one gathering of resistors, but we're not losing either. Every day we remain free is a victory. The war continues, fought in shadows and whispers. When people wonder why Angelina Jolie seems different now, more guarded, more careful, aged beyond her years, they attribute it to her divorce, her health scares, the pressures of fame. They don't know she's been fighting a secret war for over a decade, protecting not just her family, but potentially humanity from forces that view people as cattle to be managed. The invitation to Bohemian Grove still comes every year, delivered by untraceable means. The offer still stands: join them and prosper, or continue to resist and suffer. Every year her response is the same: silence. Not yes, not no, just silence that says everything. Because Angelina Jolie knows something the organization doesn't want to admit: their power comes from fear and secrecy. Every person who refuses, every person who resists, every person who chooses integrity over comfort, weakens them. She might be David against Goliath, but David won that fight. The black helicopters still circle her properties sometimes. The threatening messages still come. The attacks on her reputation continue. But Angelina Jolie remains unbroken, unbought, unbowed. And somewhere in Northern California, in a grove of ancient redwoods, powerful men in robes stand before a stone owl and wonder how one woman's refusal to kneel has inspired so many others to stand. The war isn't over. It might never be over. But as long as there are people like Angelina Jolie willing to say no to power, willing to risk everything for principle, willing to protect humanity from those who would control it, there's hope. The Illuminati, or whatever they call themselves, made one crucial mistake. They thought everyone has a price. Angelina Jolie proved them wrong. And that refusal, that simple no in a room full of power, might have saved more than just her soul. It might have saved us all.